So I know that CTAs are like, there's the certified technical architect, but there are also other people. Basically, I also got the title because I got a project from the Salesforce CSG team, and they were like, we are looking for an architect, you fit the profile here. And I was like, okay. Then I did the application architect certs, and then Salesforce changed every cert to an architect cert, which for me is like, come on. So that's why we have some, very important and active people. Narendra, you can also, no? Sit, come. No, special people, come. Yeah. Everybody, Mr. Force Panda, if you don't know. So, so Narendra is also very active. He did his application architect. He never told me that he did. Acha, this side he's so loud and this side he's so shy. Huh? So yeah, so that's Narendra, Mr. Force Panda. I think you know him from external services, invocable methods, and Flownatic, and he does a lot of stuff. Check out his blog. And it's still not on paid WordPress, and I'm like, bro, you're an MVP now. You should have paid WordPress. But it's okay. That's a different story. Then we have Chetan. As I mentioned, Chetan is a CTA at Capgemini. He's leading big multi-million-dollar projects. Yeah. And getting peanuts for that, no. He's getting more. So he's a CTA at Capgemini. He's a very good friend. You can ask him anything and everything. He's very knowledgeable. I failed my identity, and I think I went to him, and he was like, did you do this? And I was like, no. And did you do this? And I was like, no. And he was like, well, that's what you have to do. So, so yeah, Chetan there. Then we have Sandor. Do you guys know Sandor from Munich? He's also a long-time Salesforce supporter. Yeah, big round of applause for all of them. So Sandor he was working for an ISV. He now just switched jobs. Basically, Daniel just hijacked him. And and we also do a podcast together. If you want to improve your German or want to listen to my funny German, it's called Wir sind Dohana, and we just talk about once a month about anything and everything. We are very critical of Salesforce. That's why they don't want to sponsor us. So that's Sandor. Then we have Nora. Nora is a certified Salesforce trainer. So these people are even less than CTAs. So you can decide. Yeah, there are less CTAs than less in numbers. Yeah, yeah. So that's a much rare breed. Then we have Daniel. I think Johan already said enough about Daniel. I don't think I need to introduce. If you have any questions, always to Daniel. That's the story, right? Yeah. No, he's very helpful. I can tell you, when I joined as an architect, I knew nothing, and he helped me a lot. He helped me really. I had zero idea. I was like, what am I doing here? And he was like, no, you got to do this. And Daniel is a data champion. So if you have data questions, like if your client has really, really, really effed up data, then talk to him. Daniel also leads the Frankfurt group. Sandor leads the Munich group. Then we have Jonida, our local hero. Or heroine, sorry. Jonida works at Sales5. She's also on journey to CTA, and she's also very active. And she started the SIMA group, or as part of the SIMA group.
I'm organizing the CTA study group.
Yeah, so she's organizing CTA study group. If any of you are aspirants and want to go that path, then you should connect with her. And she's also very knowledgeable. And yeah, and the last we have Martin. So Martin works at PwC, if I believe. And Martin also just cleared his CTA like a few weeks ago. And he also organizes Czech Dreaming, so it's a very good dreaming event in Prague. If you have not been there, Prague is a beautiful city. Go there. It's beautiful. The food is good. Go to Fleku. We should go to Fleku. And yeah, it's a nice conference in Prague. These folks were there. And Martin is also leading the Berlin's Refugee Force group. How many of you people know Refugee Force or don't know Refugee Force? Don't know Refugee Force. So because then it's easier to answer. So Refugee Force is a program started by Gasper, and started by Gasper, and basically we are training refugees on Salesforce so that they can have a better life opportunity and better job opportunities. And Martin is traveling every week from Prague, just coming here and doing this. And that's a round of applause for Martin too. He could just be at PwC and just be a CT and be like, I'm chilling, but he's doing that, and I really, really appreciate. And yeah, he's in Berlin, so show him around Berlin if you guys have tips, anything. I think Martin loves beer, Martin loves meat, so go for it. Yeah? No beer? Okay, only meat. so, so the idea of this panel is basically who is a CTA, what does a CTA do, and or we can also start with your question. It's a very open end, so I would also request all the panelists to please take 2 to 3 minutes to answer so that you are like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So if everybody take 3 minutes, and we want to have 2 or 3 questions so that we can have a nice discussion, and let's just see how it goes. It's very open end. How long can we be here? 10:30? 10:30. Okay. Okay. Yeah, so it's 9, so it's 8:40. Let's try to do a panel of 1 hour. Let's see what they have to say. Then we can do some chilling, some network, and then let's also help clean Vladimir and not just be like, bro, we are out. No. So let's help him clean. And yeah, I would say we start with your question. So you can ask your question now to any or every one of them. And I'm sorry, what's your name?
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So-
Hi everyone, my name is Shirin, and I just asked like who helps the architect, with whom do you work, and in general it's a question for inspiration for people who are new or in junior roles. What is needed? What kind of skills you look for, and like what type of collaboration? Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for the question. Daniel, you want to start?
Well, just let me ask a question in return. Do you mean in terms of business collaboration? So who is the person who I talk to and work with on the customer side if I'm engaged as an architect there? Or is it? In the team, okay. Okay, my answer was more geared towards the customer side. Let me say it nonetheless. On the customer side, you typically need, or as a peer in the role, the people that you need most is people who know why they are doing this in the company, so that you can basically you design something and give something to make their life better, and you need to kind of a person to champion this within the teams and from inside the company. So kind of sponsoring your ideas, carrying it through, seeing value in that, etc. That you can do from an outside perspective. Who am I working with in the team and in the company? Most often the development or implementation team seeks my guidance and seeks my plan. If you go by really planning in advance, the advanced planning idea goes by make a design first and then follow the design. This is pretty waterfallish in the end, so most often I'm rather asked in micro planning as well. So if you have a story to implement, you need to make this fit in somehow, and this is basically the overall vision for everything is this thing that I typically have to maintain in a project, and the team often consults with me on their solutions, how they're going to implement the ideas that I had. And that's what I do most of the time, plus mentoring people, giving back some of the ideas and the things that I learned. And most of the things I learned the very hard way, being the solo cowboy of doing everything, like Johan said. And I have the luxury to have a lot of people in my reporting line, and they are happy to have me, and I'm happy to have them, because I like talking about Salesforce. And if they ask me, I can talk about Salesforce, and that's what I love to do all day. Anyone else?
So when I heard the question, there were basically 3 things that came to mind. So since I work as a freelancer most of the time, I'm alone most of the time. So I have to get people around me to collaborate with, to work with. And there's basically 3 qualities that I really enjoy having in my network. The first one is having people there who are open to challenge what I come up with. Like Johan said earlier, it goes like this. Yeah. You never know if what your mind came up with is brilliant or simply crap. Oh, yeah. So there's a very thin line between genius and a mad person. So I really need people who look at what I've done and are very open in what they think, and don't hold back because maybe I have 5 years more experience. Like sometimes I actually just had an issue where I thought about the craziest things. It was a bug I had to solve. And then an end user was like, so have you tried that? And I'm like, oh, that's too simple. So I need that. The second one is I need, and it really, like sums up a lot of the things that Johan said. I want to have people around me who don't feel like they shouldn't, like, I don't know what it's in English, like Ärmel hochkrempeln. So get to work, get things done. Don't, just because you have 7-8 years experience, it doesn't mean that you should sit back and say, no, I'm not doing, I don't know, data cleaning. If things go, if the shit hits the show, sorry, excuse my French, but you have to get things done. So that's people I want to have around me. And the third thing is people who enjoy learning. Since I'm a teacher, I love sharing my knowledge. And I really value if there's people who are willing to listen and who are willing to maybe go on a journey with me with something where, because I feel like I sometimes can see potential in people that they haven't seen. And I sometimes kind of want to nudge people to like, just give it a try. Just trust me on this one. And so those are the three things that I need around me to thrive. Because also the people that I teach, I know that they will be able to give back. They will learn something that I haven't learned. Maybe they go on a specific route, like do marketing cloud and all of that stuff, which I'm not an expert in. I can call them. When I need to learn, I call them. So yeah, that's basically the three things that I had in mind.
I would like to put it on a rather factual level and asking if you were now asking me to put some skills on those people, not characteristics like personality traits, then I have a trias of people ideally. So I have someone who knows stuff declaratively. I have some coding person, and I have an integration person. And with these three roles, including someone like you or you and all of us, you can get shit done on the platform in a fast way. So if you were asking me what's my favorite team, that would be the skill set and their specialities along with all the personality traits, and I would love to add ownership. If I give out a task, you own that task, your responsibility, you report back, whatever it is, but you own it. Please own it.
Sure. So my answer would be, like most of you said, yes, I turn to experts. I think there's one, like Johan also was trying to tell, I would also agree to that. There is a bit of a misconception that once you're a CTA, you know everything. Sorry to break that. Yeah, sure.
There are some exceptions.
Yeah. And if somebody is living in that bubble, good luck then. Yeah. So that's not how things work, right? So turn to experts. I mean, yes, you are a CTA. Yes, you worked your rear end off to become a CTA. But there were a lot of things you were missing out on, right? For me personally, I didn't touch flows in the last 2 years or so. And I have the luxury of having this guy sitting next to me. Of course, there are others in the community, in my group, in my company, in my team, who are much better in doing flows than me. All I try to do is get together with them and try and think logically, try to solve the problem with a bit of a logic, and then let the experts do what they do, right? I'm not like the best coder there, but if I could bring my 2 cents in, and if that helps two and some others do together, and that solves a bigger problem, why not? So I'm expert in everything, and I don't aim to be an expert in everything. That would be too hard for me to, too long road for me to go through, right? So, yeah.
Okay, let's ask the next question. So, anybody has a question? No? I have to do it? Okay, so Martin, you have one? Go for it.
So I have the feeling I have to explain the question afterwards, but first of all, the question. How valuable is the journey to CTA in the long run? So I cannot compare it directly, but for example, when I prepared for some certifications, 3 months after that was like, yeah, you should know that, but you also have Google. So How is it when you prepare for the CTA?
So when you say journey to CTA, you mean how important it is to become the CTA? Or
No, afterwards. Is it also that you cannot remember about this stuff, or how do you feel about it? I mean, some of you just prepared for it, but is there a long-term opinion on that?
you want to start? Yeah.
So eager to answer. I can share only an anecdote to that.
Here's a story. Once upon a time, when I started Salesforce, there were admins and developers, and gosh, we were a lucky bunch. Happy. United. And then Trailblazer community groups happened. And now we're sitting in one that is new, and that's the architect one. And the best question I want to ask back is, how is it that we are now also having architects groups? And I want to pick up on what you said, and everyone says you cannot know it all. And that is because Salesforce grows with speed that you cannot keep up with. So if Salesforce puts $6 billion on the table, they acquire a company with tens of years of knowledge, documentation, best practices. And none of us has a USB slot where you just jump in. And even if we had that, we would have no experience. So no hitting the head against the wall, finding workarounds, or even saying, sorry, not possible, we need to think about something else. It will not work that way. And hence, I'd say, of course we don't remember all the stuff, and lots of things are basically having the guts to say, I don't know, I will take this home, I will brief with Daniel, with Martin, and come back to you. And let's please postpone this decision. It's critical, it's vital, and we don't want to rush it. And what's more, so I'm not a certification fan, I hate them, really. Yeah, I say it's an insult to creative intelligence. So, but we still need to pass them, full stop. And if you then leave everything out and still do a good job, perfect for you, because the exam question will not get you a paycheck.
My journey to CTA started the moment I started a job that had technical architect in the title, and I thought CTA, if I'm TA, I should be CTA too, started immediately, so I started Certify Like Hell. Certify Like Hell meant at this time get the developer cert, and that was the one of the two prerequisites for CTA board. The second prerequisite was the self-assessment, and I said this and failed, obviously, immediately. But it was an unproctored exam, and I thought like, oh, interesting. Because one of the questions was, how well do you know Flex on a scale of 5? And I was honest and answered with a straight 0. Next time I set the prerequisite exam for CTA, I simply clicked 5 in every question. And unlocked the CTA board for me myself. Unfortunately, all the slots were sold, so I couldn't do it that year. It was 2015, I think. 1 year of experience in Salesforce, mostly mid-market. And when there were slots available, they introduced the architect pyramid, which gave me another 9 certifications to take. And I thought like, you gotta be shitting me. I was ready, and now I have to take 9 certifications. And while I was doing these 9, I was so angry about this that I didn't take them in the first year, not in the second year, and then I went into that. And the first thing that I did was the data, what is now data architect. It was then data modeling and data designer. And I've learned a lot of things. Then came the deployment designer. I built the DevOps pipeline that we're using, so that's really my jam. So, and I looked at my score, and it was a straight to the mark, exactly on the pass score. 41 correct answers, not a single bit of margin to the score. So over the time in this pyramid, I found out that all of these things really gave me interesting news and insights that I didn't have. So I really wasn't ready for the CTA board, and I didn't try yet so far to even start learning for that. And Johan said, if you don't start now or yesterday, you will never do. He's probably right. But I think the changes that came to the architect development path were really essential, because sooner or later you meet that customer who asks, well, can we do that OAuth please with overflow please with Pixie as well? And I was like, Pixie? Yeah, let me just Google, and found out that Pixie is just the way you pronounce something that is written completely different. So you gotta learn these things over time. This is where experience comes in, and I think that's really valuable. And you have to learn this step by step, and you see the value immediately in these exams later on, because these support your experience. And I think there's the journey. I'm not really halfway there, I think, if I look at your experiences. But I think there's a lot of value in the journey. I'm not really so sure if you really need the CTA to actually do something. It's probably something that you do to award yourself, and it awards your company a lot of points in the partner score as well. So it's important for partners. But it's the journey. Basically, the essence of becoming a real technical architect is in the journey. I think, probably Martin or Chetan, you could share your take on that.
Yeah, I have probably three things to say. The first one is that I'm Czech, and we say that if there is a book for that, we can learn it over the night. The second thing I still feel strongly is that the certified technical architect sounds like you will be someone technical. Mm-hmm. But at the end, I believe it's like 30% technical. You can pass with quite a little knowledge at the end, I would kind of say. It's a lot about the communication. And it's also what makes the position quite strange, especially at PwC. We are quite divided. There are the project managers, there are the those people and those people and those people. And the architect is someone all around the place, all over the place. Mm-hmm. So it's like hard to find a position for him. But maybe get back to your question, if I got it right. I failed my first board in September 2020, was it, I believe. And then I basically gave up for 9 months or something like that. And the questions I've been getting is like, how do you plan to study? And I was like, no clue, I know everything. Yeah. And what surprised me is that really after those 9 months when I completely ignored it because I've been waiting for the date, that I get back to the books, and I've been surprised that I remember all those limits, I remember all those rules, and probably even the order of execution or these kind of strange things. And it was really about the communication, about the level of detail you need to provide for the board, and these kind of things. So that's basically what I've been practicing last 6 months, how to deliver the message. That's it.
I would also say something around this. I'm not yet, hopefully soon, a certified technical architect. And of course, I have to say something good about this because I'm also co-organizer of this Benelux study group for the CTA. So if you guys want to join, you're happy to. I'm really happy to approve you. You have to have the system and the application architect and to be active. And then you can practice for it. So basically, I would say during this studies, that's making my work much, much easier to, to be like also what just Martin as well said, to communicate to clients better in a very structured way. Like, okay, you have requirement A with assumption X, Y, Z. I would recommend solution X, and this is not always just a technical thing, but it's more like, yeah, the business wants something, you pick it up, and you have to bring it into a communicative, good way. And of course, you have to learn as well the identity flows by heart, and you have to draw them like. I'm still not very good at it, to be honest. But also this, I have the feeling this makes a lot of sense at the end, because, I mean, I'm having, for instance, this SSO project where I'm having like Salesforce identity. Who has done Salesforce identity? And okay, yeah, but you know, I have like this study group of 100 people asking, guys, do you know about this simple thing like Salesforce identity? You know, have you used it with external users and so on? And literally, for how can I modify SAML requests, SAML response, for instance, no one knows it. It's like, okay, but we're here a group of 100 architects or aspiring architects, you know, it's not like, but if you at least know the flows, you would know how, when you would use this kind of thing, and why the client wants actually to have, I don't know, a group assignment to another application or whatever via SAML. So that, okay, sorry, that's going too much into detail, but basically at the end, it's really nice to be learning it, and you, yeah, for me it's more the process and knowing afterwards and communicating to the clients. Thanks.
Anyone else?
So you asked about the journey, right? You said, I a lot of times just sit back, sometimes I don't have much work, so then I do that, and think about it like, you know, what was the reason? Why did I, you know, put myself through this? And if you just, you know, try and break it down and think about it, the actual exam, I don't know, have you ever seen somebody presenting a mock exam, or have you actually done yourself anytime, mock? Sorry?
Videos.
Okay, all right. So probably you would have noticed that it's a very, you know, simulated kind of a thing, right? It's a lot of people would feel it's a very artificial thing, right? I would be very surprised if anybody had to do something like that in real life, where there was a document with like end-to-end requirements given to them, and they had to come up with a solution. And half the time it's more like, I assumed this, and so that's where this. I assumed this, and that's where this. That's not the case, right? So why did Salesforce come up with something like this? My justification is that they wanted to make people go through that journey. So it is really the journey, which is the point of coming up with something like this, where they make you go through this so that next time, even if it's a 5 minutes meeting with the CTO of a company who asks you something really technical, you have those stars here, right? You know, if you don't know, then it's a bit of a panic moment because you have to live up to that credibility, right? So, but a lot of times you know that because you remember, you know, a lot of things in Salesforce, what you were saying, right? You know, limits change, products change, you know, products keep coming into the ecosystem, keep going, you know, they deprecate or something like that. So it's not about remembering each and everything, you know, they can change overnight. And of course you can Google them, and that's always better. But remember the logic behind it, the one layer below it. Why does it happen? Why is it this way? And how, maybe there are things which can change over a period of time, but more important is to go to that one level deeper always and understand the reasoning behind it. Same is for the journey, right? Why? It is because they want you to know one level deeper of each and every one of these domains and understand and avoid those pitfalls which would come up, you know, if you don't take care of them right now. So, I don't know, another CTA, maybe you want to add something?
Just one last thought I had on that is, if you go that journey, ask yourself why you want to become a CTA. And it's something that I've been questioning myself for a long time. I haven't done it yet, slowly getting there, but I think the reason behind you deciding to go down that route could be very different. If you're doing it for the money, then you might do the board and then forget everything that you learned. From all of the people I know I've met that have become a CTA, that might have been a part of it, but they did it to learn the platform inside and out and understand it and have that that need and the curiosity to find out what's going on, like underneath the hood. And if you have that, and if that's what brought you to become a CTA, that will not go away. You will want to keep finding out what's happening underneath the hood. And even if you've forgotten some nitty-gritty details of something that was asked for through the preparation, you will know that you were able to learn it once, and maybe that you were able to learn something like identity stuff. That's like, for some of us, really, really, really tricky. If you know you've managed to learn that once, you will have the confidence that in the future, if there's something new coming up, Salesforce comes up with a new exciting feature, you will be able to learn it because you learned about all of the other stuff. So I think you will forget things, probably, like some tiny details, but somewhere deep down they are still buried, and you will be able to bring them back. And if you have the willingness to keep learning, which I think we all do, otherwise we wouldn't be here talking about this, it helps.
Good. So I tell you a funny story. I was on a roll and I did like my application architect, and then I was like, yeah, I can do this. Then I did my identity and I failed. And I told Daniel, and Daniel was like, oh yeah, identity. This is the only exam I had to study for. You know, I sat down and studied for it, and I was like, okay, Daniel. So you see, that's the level we are at. So, and I failed it twice already, I think, the identity one, just because we're talking about it. I hate it. I literally hate it. Yeah. Yeah. And I failed it twice, and then Paul Battison, I don't know how many of you know Paul Battison, he's an MVP and works at Cloud Galactico, and I tweeted about it, and he was like, oh, I failed it 3 times, so it's okay, you're still good. And I was like, okay. So I felt a little better. Anybody has more questions? Leticia, Victor? Go for it.
Actually, I'm just gonna jump on the same wagon because, like, as a lot of people, I also failed the identity. And one thing that is actually for me on my journey, also for like the CTA and so on, it's really hard also to kind of figure out. You sometimes get a little bit the feeling of, okay, I'm the only one that is just like struggling and just like taking forever to do it. And so one thing, you know, like that I would like for you all to share, if it's possible, is like, how long did it take you from the moment you actually decided to go for this journey until you actually got there? And it doesn't have to be like to the CTA itself, but like to the point where you're at right now, and like just knowing a little bit.
Yeah. Do you have a following question, or is it different? Okay. And I also have a question, like continuing on her with the time. I know a lot of people here have families and kids, and how do you manage that? Because I'm not going on my journey because it's a very huge time commitment. And I don't have kids, but I'm busy, so so I don't know. And I know Martin has kids. I know Chetan has kids, and Daniel, of course. So Martin,
How many do you have?
I don't know.
No kids.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. But that's tough job. I understand. Do you know their names? Okay, then it must be tough.
Yeah.
Okay, I have no clue how you can fail identity twice. It's such small topic. It's easy to. But even though on my retake 2 weeks ago, they tested me on every single outflow probably which exists. I still don't feel confident. So last week I spoke with a developer from a client, and he said, "Oh, we need a new connected app because it doesn't authenticate, and we use the outflow." And I was like, "Yeah, so you authenticate or what?" You know, it's the out, so there's no really UI for the whatever. And I was like, "Oh, well, do I want to go into this debate or just whatever?" So yeah, being CTA probably doesn't make it easier. As for the length, I usually say I started my career in the last century. and I'm building on top of that. So I learned about firewalls and email relays and these kind of things in 2000. And I still somehow try to keep the knowledge fresh, or maybe it doesn't change. IBM introduced Corba in 2000 something, which was the state-of-the-art ESB from this day perspective, and it's still the same principle. So the principles are still the same. So if you go one level deeper, it doesn't change at all after all. So I started my real preparation for CTA probably December 2019 when I had the 601. Then we started Flow Republic in April 2020. I failed September 2020. Then some breaks, then some other tries. So like the whole journey took like 2 years. I didn't focus full time as Johan, so I was slow learner, but I made it.
But how did you manage with your family?
Yeah, the family. They are coming next week. Yeah. I do have just 3 kids, so it's easy. I still remember. I even remember their birthdays. I don't remember the name days, so it's not that good. And I probably didn't have enough to do in the work, so I spent, because to me, the technical studies is one part. That's something you can take in pieces, like you study for half an hour and then you study a few days later for another 45 minutes. That's easy. But I feel that the important part of the journey is preparation for the board, which you really need to simulate in a real time. So you sit for 3 hours, you present for 45 minutes, and you take questions for an hour because why not? So you basically spend the whole day, and that was my limit. I basically worked during the work days. Then I sacrificed the time in the evenings to catch up on the work. So there might be some penalty on the family potentially. I did not sacrifice the weekends. So the weekends was for the family, and everything else had to happen during the work week. And yeah, support of the family, important probably.
Okay, so I also have 2 kids. Sundays are really basically my time with the family, definitely. Saturdays we meet with the cohort group. I started, I think, 2 years ago, last October. I fulfilled my requirements, and then it took me 2 years. So October before 2 years, and then it took me 1 year to actually decide that I want to do that. And as my chef just told me today, it's my ego. That's why I want to do it. So I'm not sure what to do with it. I think he might be probably right. I don't know if it's needed, but yeah. But kind of this certification stuff, especially when you're in consultancy. I mean, I know you, Ankit, you gossip a lot about the stupid CTA people and the certification people, but this gave me kind of a great vibe and a great, thrill to study and then to pass something. And now with the CTA, it's suddenly not that easy, like every second month to pass something, but it's like, oh gosh, I'm 1 year now just prepping with Flow Republic and other people, and we're all like suffering a lot, but also it's kind of nice. It's a little bit, psycho. Yeah. The kids also don't know what I'm doing there. They sometimes feel like, okay, there is this person sitting in front of a square thing that is having lights on it, and she looks like she's our mother, but sometimes I really take 1 or 2 weeks kind of off and say, like, CTA, screw it, I don't want to do it anymore, and then I just have time with my kids, and then afterwards I go back because my ego, obviously, it's too large to stop it. So that's it. Thanks.
Yeah, I'll take the family answer first as well. Basically, the main motivator for me, I'm on my second career or third or fourth or whatever it is, but I didn't start in tech. Originally, I started in tech. I had a long stretch in academics, managing academic projects, and returned to technology as an architect without having learned the trade, but being responsible for a small Salesforce unit in a product that I had to learn then. The main motivator to do this for me was basically being a better dad, because I was working in Braunschweig and living near the Frankfurt area, and I didn't want to have the commute any longer, and I wanted to have a job outside of academics. You probably know the debate about limited term contracts in the academics, so I wanted to have a full-time permanent contract that lasts for longer, and Salesforce offered this opportunity. And becoming an architect, basically, or really living up to the role that I got as a chance for a new career, was and doing this to maintain stable family business was the main motivator for me. So it never gets old. Kids get old, but it never gets old to have that same drive again. And I set clear boundaries. Work is work, and for breakfast, for meals, etc., everybody comes together. There's no discussion around this, and this has priority. Same as shutting down the machine in the late afternoon, early evening, and having family time when they are in bed or so. I am not forcing me to do something, but it's interesting, and I love this, and I go and discover new things. I don't watch TV. You can't talk to me about Netflix or whatever. I'm watching a lot of Netflix, but that fills the gaps between finding out new things. And just when I start to do Netflix, people like Ankit or Sandor come and ask something or have an idea or so, and then we have to try it out, and it gets 12 p.m. or so. But so 12 p.m. is not exactly 12 a.m. rather. Midnight-ish, not noonish. So basically, I'm on that journey all the time, and I'm happy to actually work in that role every day without actually feeling like being on a journey or ever getting somewhere. I get these. If you prepare for scenarios, that's one thing. I'm in a position where customers bring RFPs, RFQs. I get these scenarios not every day, but every other week or so. And then I have to perform on this because there is a demonstration appointment and a presentation for that proposal. And I have to write that thing. And I have to go through all the same things. And I always, when I get fed up with that, I'm thinking of Johan, who's always said, you have to have the template for that. This has to be muscle memory. And I see that small guy and telling me, you have to have that as a muscle memory and a template, and you got to be fast with that. So I draw my landscape and my data model and build these blocks. It is fun. It is. I don't feel that I need to sit the board for that because it happens anyway. So I feel I started this, and I'm not really sure if I'm going to finish this ever, but who cares? I'm happy with that. It's fun for me. So probably as a motivation for that path, as long as you feel happy with that, just go on and let it drive you. And if you lose the interest in these things, that's more dangerous than even getting started. I think once Salesforce gets boring or so, it's probably time to leave and not embark on that journey any longer. But it doesn't get boring. It's rather getting, sometimes scratch your head when you get these things like Tableau CRM is now back to CRM analytics, and you're like, holy crap, I just became a Tableau ambassador, and now there's no Tableau any longer in that name. And I have no relation whatsoever to the Tableau brand, but rather to the product that is now no longer Tableau CRM. It's like, strange things are happening. But that's the other part that I enjoy, the kind of ways Benioff drives the company and decisions that he takes that I find ridiculous. And at the end of the road, Benioff wins, and I I was wrong 2 years back, so my predictions never work out, and I enjoy that a lot, and it doesn't feel like I have to get my ass up to do this all the day.
Thank you. So for me, the journey started 2015. I started Salesforce. Oh, I started Salesforce. By the way, I am Mark Benioff, just in a different form. And this is my second career, I could say. I come from a completely different industry. I was a fitness instructor before. I studied fitness economics, completely different thing. Although you have to talk in front of people. And then I got hired by Accenture back then to become a CRM trainer. And it was Salesforce. I didn't pick it to be Salesforce. They just said, you do Salesforce. And I said, okay, I can talk. Just tell me what I have to say. And so for the first 2 years, it was me really diving down into the nitty-gritty details of Salesforce because, are there people in here who teach on like some basis? Okay, but you've been in academics, right?
Yeah, indeed.
It's a different way of learning something if you have to teach it. There's one way of knowing it yourself, but then if you have to articulate your knowledge, you realize that you haven't understood it. So that has really helped me on my journey. And the first 2 years, I would say, was like my knowledge went up like this. Then I started applying my knowledge, and I probably started building up another knowledge, like the experience part of it. And I think 2017 was when I first saw the architect pyramid, 2017 or 18. And I felt like that's something I kind of feel like I want to do. It's just like it was like a magnet. I was like, I want to go there. But I knew that I'm going to have to put time into studying for it. Because I want to know it at that level where I can articulate it, and I feel like I need to. And so that's where it got challenging for me, because although I don't have kids, I've got a family, I've got friends, I need to, for my own sake, put a good focus on work-life balance. And becoming a freelancer might not have been a good step in that sense. But anyways, so there my journey sort of, I wouldn't say stopped, but there were a few years where I just sort of got some experiences, because I think there are the two things. You need some experience, whether you get it within your own company, works. You can get it by going to a consultancy, that works. Mm-hmm. You can get it by becoming a freelancer and just figuring things out as you go. It works as well, and having people around you challenge what you think. And then I think like over the last year, I've started going back to really studying. And for me, what helps me with that is just signing up for the certification, having that date on the calendar, and knowing that that's the day when I have to do it. Because otherwise, I know myself, I'm not good at sitting down if I don't have a due date. So that has helped me a lot. And actually, although I am a trainer, I usually don't participate in trainings. And I have a very hard time listening. I put YouTube videos on 2 times speed, everything. I knit because I can't listen, and but actually, this week, I started participating in the Bootcamp, and I realized it really helped me. So one of the challenging parts for me is integration, and so I did the integration, or I'm doing the integration track in the Bootcamp. And I actually realized again that it helps me to learn if I talk to people about it. Because I can sit down and I can study and I can read all of the trails there are and do all of the challenges there are, and it all works. And I read it, I'm like, that makes sense. But I don't understand it. And so on that journey, what I've just actually this week realized again, what helps me a lot is spending a lot of time studying on my own. I need that, but I need parts in my journey where I can discuss my knowledge. And so far that had been me delivering trainings, but I'm not at that knowledge level for those topics yet. So that's something that I know will help me in the future on my training, on my journey, is finding groups like these where I can discuss my knowledge, joining like a study group where I can discuss my knowledge and find out about things. Still have to clear the system architect, so then I will join. But yes, so it's a journey that's a bit of a not straight curve, and I think it always depends a bit on where you are in your life and what works well. There is a time commitment that has to happen, I think, on the journey. There's no way around that. But yeah, I mean, it's, lifelong learning and all of that. I won't throw in more buzzwords, but that's what you sort of take on, I think, if you go down that route. If you go down the rabbit hole.
So I'm certainly on a path that leads me to somewhere. In contrast to the rest of the group, I'm not part of the journey. So, hello, my name is Sander. I'm an addict. I like to know stuff every day and like to discuss stuff. And it so happens that my current passion is Salesforce, but it could also be JRPG or coding or whatever other nerd hobby there is. But I can make a lot of money with it, so this is great for my family as well. So to me, it's a really great thingy. So I'm not pressured into any things and going any certification paths. I take them by the time. I didn't have any certification for a long time, and then I did all developer certifications, developer 1, developer 2, JavaScript developer, and felt, okay, that's what I did. That's what my daily job was. That's what I should be certified about. I also take it quite seriously if a certification like data architect says 5+ years experience. Because if you want to chalk out data models fast, you need to have done it very often. I haven't. I'm still sitting the exam. Maybe I pass, maybe I don't. And then I'm closer to, no, that will be my first architect title, I think, because it's now data architect. Does it make me happier? No.
You'll become a new human.
And I know what you said about ego and the pyramid and being at the top, and maybe you've had similar experience in your previous life, like being at the top or being the best at someone. And it just so happened with my family that this completely disappeared, right? So while earning money and so on, that's the important thing. Little one, my partner, and everything around that is my passion, and I love doing it, and I'm earning my money. But all the ego stuff just went away, and I'm very, very happy and grateful for that.
So it's 9:30. Let's take the last question from Victor. Just one thing I want to say real quickly regarding the architect. So I was also very skeptical of this boot camp, and actually I'm changed now. So I realize how important this is classroom learning. So now my client is still writing me on Teams, but they know that I'm on a boot camp. So what I want to say is that this classroom study is really helping. And if some of you are interested, and this is the architect group, maybe we can figure something out. And it can be, I don't like Salesforce Saturdays. I anyways do a lot on Monday to Friday. As I said, I like my Saturdays somewhere else, Sisyphos. But if you want to, then maybe some folks of you can organize something together. I really can find that interesting and good, coming together in a room and utilizing the time. And we have Johan and we have Chetan, and these guys, and they're more than happy. Johan is actually the reason why I did application architect. Like, I just met him for a falafel, and he's like, you should do architect. You should do architect. Ankit, I'm telling you. And every second time we're talking, he is like, so what are you thinking about it? But you need someone like that. So if you want to do some classroom studies, I think we can figure something out, and we can also find someone to give us some space, right? But let's not do it on a Saturday. No. Yeah, 9 we are getting some quiche. Yeah? Yeah, maybe we can do it at Sisyphos. So, Victor, last question. And if you have more questions, we are still here for another 45 minutes until Vladimir kicks us out. So then you can also talk to these folks directly. But Victor, go for it.
First off, thanks a lot for your insights and stories, very inspirational. Yeah, this last question is kind of specific and a little left field. I'm wondering, as architects in your role, how often you prioritize user experience or work with UX designers when building solutions. And I ask, what was that? All the time. Great, that's good to know.
Just take Salesforce as an answer and see how Salesforce is investing in Lightning. They have even now a certificate on it. So you can just finish your question.
Right, yeah. Well, I recognize SLDS and the UX Trailhead track, but I'm curious of how it goes into your work on a daily basis, or how often you bring it into your solutions. And I mainly ask because a mentor of mine at Salesforce observed that a lot of projects that he's seen fail in adoption or implementation has been a design problem and not an engineering problem.
So Narendra, you should answer, right? Answer. So basically, how much does CTA prioritize UX? Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
As an architect. Like I said earlier, just look at Salesforce. They ditched Classic altogether. There were reasons, technical, yes, but they made a shift to Lightning, and then they had performance issues. Then LWC came. But regardless, the UI stayed the same. They invested a lot of money. Just look at Cloudflow Designer, being very closely working with the Salesforce automation team. I know that even before Flash was going to get expired, they had plans to refactor this, because it was not so much easy for people to just work with Cloudflow Designer because of the technical terms that were involved. So UI, it's a very essential piece of a solution when you deliver it to customer. And like you said, adoption. Adoption is one of the major factors why Salesforce implementations or any product fails, because there is no good UI. Pick any successful startup, they invest a lot of time, not just in terms of implementation, but also equal time is given to the UI, and they have a specific dedication team. And I think most of the folks would agree that the more time you implement or spend time thinking about the design, how it should work for the end users, the more benefit it will be in the long run. Because you will have those conversations with your customers that, I can make it better, but it's going to take a little more time, and they'll say no. But if you just show them the benefit of doing this, and then how it will give them the value added in the long run, that's where you excel as an architect, because you have to sell your solution and tell them what is the real value when you add a tweak, or what is the added benefit of the time that you are investing in the solution. So yeah.
So I was working for an ISV for 5 years, and one of the things that we decided upon is to just follow along SLDS, because Salesforce Lightning Design System has been created by experts, UX driven by studies, and that's what we got. And the thing that I wanted to avoid is any additional mental weight on users, because they have to rearrange their thinking for each screen or each record page. And that's basically something that Salesforce gives you for free, all these design guidelines and all the base components. And I strongly encourage to simply use them. And if there's a component blueprint, use the component blueprint. Patch them together, looks peachy, it's cheap.
So you asked, like as CTAs, do we prioritize that or not? I think, of course, there's no there's no reason to question CTA in this, please, huh? Okay. What I mean is, yeah, as architects, whether you're a CTA or not, yes, for sure you should question, or you should challenge things where it turns the user is in the middle of everything, right? So what do I do on my day-to-day basis? I challenge in designs. I challenge, approach. And if the business analyst or the developer who is presenting that design to me, if he or she is not able to finish that entire, end-to-end flow in X number of clicks, it's there right in front of you, right? I mean, it's not for me to call it out and tell them, guys, look at this. Is it feasible for you to think of it that your end user would go through this much pain? So I think all of us have talked about it, like whether you're on your journey to CTA or even on your day-to-day life as architects, like it is, obvious that you have to have the user mindset. So many times when I was doing mocks with Johan, it was more always about no matter how good your solution is that you're trying to present, the judges will pick on it. Do you think it's feasible? Do you think it's a good user experience or not? Yes, user experience is not an explicit domain as such in your CTA pyramid or your CTA exam, but it is right in the middle of it, right? It's very, easy to forget things, and when you are in your flow to say that, yes, I will suggest CPQ, and I will suggest this, and I will suggest this. User is not the end user of your system. The users are also your admins, the poor admins who have to, create like 2,000 objects and migrate them. And yeah, we've all heard those stories about, data migrations and metadata migrations. Good luck, right? So user is everywhere, right? If for that matter, sometimes you would be a user, you would be the poor guy who would have to document all of that, right? So I, as an architect, a lot of times do that, right? When I have to create training manuals, we talked about training manuals, architects do create that as well. If you're not convinced that this is going to work, yes, spare that, call it out, and start from the scratch again, yes.
One more quick point. Anybody here knows custom property editors? Have you heard the name? Yeah, so why custom property editors? A very plain, simple question. Why custom property? Because now you simply have a component, it works in flows. You have put an Apex action, it works, it has inputs. Why add the complexity to create another component which is so difficult to create? There is a very steep learning curve. There are so many jargons that you have to learn just to create a nice UI. That's it. So that explains a lot. And this goes for ISV especially. If you want to make a product look nice, you have to start from the design regardless how you implement. It can be spaghetti code, it can be spaghetti low code. But the design is what the end user is going to be presented with. That's what they will be interacting with. So if it looks good, it sells good.
I'm going to say one question.
One sentence. If you can design the best thing in the world, best complexity, super secure, if your end users can't or won't use it, you failed.
One specific point here. You started the question by UX. We drifted very fast into custom UI, which is a very common mistake, in my opinion. UX, as an architect, UX always comes first because adoption comes first. And UX also comes first because Salesforce has a specific concept. Sandor said it about the custom UI has custom standardized UI components and component models for that, which build a coherent UI that fits into the existing UI. And if you use it coherent, you will get the same user experience that you also have by using the standard UX. So UX, from my point of view, starts with using the standard properly and applying the standard properly. The choice between a standard page and a console, for example, is crucial for roles. How they do their jobs, how they use the system. So personally, I don't want to dig into custom UI before even making the application usable and beautiful in the way it is or was designed to be, and that comes first. And we can talk about custom UI later, but UX basically starts at applying what Salesforce gave us in a way that people can do their job really good. And that means declutter layouts, declutter your single-page applications. Not everything has to be on the layout. Not everything has to be on a record page. People just have one screen, and I learned newspapers in my studies. And in newspapers, there is a concept that is called above the fold. That is, if you have a newspaper at the kiosk, it is just folded, right? You have the letterhead of the newspaper, the big headlines, the most important thing, and people will only see what is above the fold. And above the fold is basically this one square that the screen is. That is the most important area that you have, and given it can be standard UI components, it can be custom UI components, but you have to make good use of the screen estate that you have. And I really don't want to talk about custom UI before you actually made sense of how to use that little screen estate that you have. 24 inches won't make a difference, or 32 inches, or 42 inches curved. It will still be the same things on that. And for me, it's the most important thing to get the most relevant things up there in a way that is most coherent with what Salesforce wanted us to do. Be it custom, be it standard. I'm completely with Sandor. If you build custom, it has to be in the same UI concept that Salesforce has. But really, if we talk about UX, go back to what Salesforce has as a UX for their product, and then build on that and really think about what makes sense there. And please, when you create new fields, don't clutter and pollute. We say polluting namespaces, polluting everything, like just click everything. What you see on Trailhead, check everything. Don't do it. Add to all layouts, add to all profiles. Don't do that. Considerations of UX and being a nice neighbor to all the people in your system starts exactly there. Uncheck everything and make considerations about that later. This is where UX actually starts. Like Chetan said, everybody will be thankful if you don't pollute their areas of work.
No, it's fine.
So thank you, the panelists. Let's give them a round of applause for the discussion.